That's all that was available. So I found out a place called Orlando. And my wife was from Orlando, so guess where we visited regularly. There was about 15 more varieties that you could get. And then I heard about a Citrus Expo one time. So I'm gonna go to that. I was a citrus fanatic. Thought I was the only person in the world that was just crazy. I'm talking about crazy about citrus. And then I met Stan McKenzie. Realized I wasn't the only crazy one in the world. Rocked on for years. USDA knocked on my door one day and opened the door. There was 5 people on my porch with uniforms, name badges. One of them had a gun. I thought, oh boy, what is this? They said, we were told you might have some citrus. And you know, I'm kind of a little smart aleck. I thought, well, you walked past 15 trees to get to my doorstep. What do y'all think? He said, well, do you know how many varieties you have or how many trees? I said, I have no clue. But I have 136 varieties. He said, young man, I don't think you have quite that many, but it's okay. So, well, you're welcome to look at them if you would like to. So he said, you know, if we find a disease, we're going to want to remove it. And I said, not in my yard. I'll remove it before you get to it. He said, do you really understand diseases? I said, kind of, sort of. He said, well, do you mind if we catalog the varieties you have? Don't mind a bit in the world. So he said, well, would you give us the tour? End of the day, had 136 varieties, 360 trees. They said it was the largest private collection they had ever found. That's before I was in the nursery business. So then I went into citrus, just in the nursery business, just growing flowers, annuals, perennials. Had some rough years, building all my own greenhouses, and I was up at Atlas Greenhouse Systems one day, and one of the guys recognized me and said, Hershell, we need some greenhouses installed. Would you install them for us? I said, sure. He said, we need one in Lebanon. I said, oh no, not interested in going to Lebanon. He said, Lebanon, Tennessee. Well, I'll go there. So I got tied up with Atlas, did that for 20-something years. Decided I would come off the road, settle down. Saw my cousin one day and he said, hey, let's go in the citrus business. I said, oh no, I've already been there, done that. He said, well, let's grow some fruit trees. I said, nope, don't want to do that either. So then saw one of the guys that I grabbed the pecan trees with. He said, hey, let's go in the citrus business. I said, aha, I don't want to do that, but I know a guy that does. So I gave him their phone numbers, you know, swapped them out. He called Ricky, and oh yeah, they were all gung-ho. They were going to go in the citrus business. They set up and had it all planned. So Saturday morning, one of them realized, we don't know anything about citrus. So they came to my house. Twisted my arm a little bit. So here I am. Still have one partner, Alfredo Garcia. He couldn't be here today. Had some real good help. This guy over here, couldn't run a website without him. He is the best. Where's Garrett? He's back there in the back. He's our purchasing agent. Anything you get, he probably purchased. If I have a question, I always call Stan. I've met some really good people in this business. The only variety that I'm looking for is the one I don't have. We went to California, met Rock Cristiano, which runs CCPP, the Citrus Clonal Protection Program out there. Found a few more varieties I wanted to collect. When I was getting my greenhouse in Ray City certified, USDA out of Florida had to come up to certify us because Georgia didn't have a certification program. Tim Riley, which is as high as you can go in USDA down there, he said, Hershell, I want you to do one thing. He said, Georgia hasn't become a citrus state, and when Georgia does become a citrus state, they're going to close the borders and make it more difficult to get varieties. So go ahead and get every variety you think anybody will ever want in Georgia. So I said, I'll do that. That's my drive, to get all the varieties. So I'm at 225 certified varieties in the nursery now. Not all of them are online yet. We should have all of them online by spring. Of course, I'm constantly getting more. I have a license with the state of Georgia to collect varieties that are not certified, because my passion in citrus, as you know, citrus has more diseases than any other plant cultivated by man. And there's a tremendous underground market where budwood is traded and comes from all over the world. My goal is to collect all these varieties that are in the underground trade and get them cleaned up so y'all can buy certified budwood so it don't have the pathogens. Some of the budwood that I have collected over the years, I've had it tested, and the only pathogen we have had is hop stunt. I was so determined to find where the hop stunt was coming from that I kept going to the grove and testing more trees and testing more trees and testing more trees, trying to isolate it. There was finally an article in one of the citrus magazines. Berrien County is the hot spot for hop stunt virus. So I had to corner the guy that wrote that article. He said, you know, I should have never published that, but he said, we spend our entire life looking for these viruses, and when we finally find them, I said, do you realize I was sampling the same tree over and over and over and over in the same row over and over, trying to pinpoint the trees that had it? He said, no, I didn't know that that's what you were doing. He said, you know, you're paying $40 every time you do this. I said, well, it's that important to me, so I know which trees to isolate. But anyway, it's important that when we're trading budwood, that we be sure we use certified varieties. That's why we make it on our website, that anything we have, as soon as we build our varieties up, we make sure it's cheaper than anywhere else you can get it. I want to be the Walmart of citrus. I want you to be able to get your budwood easy. I want you to be able to get information on how to bud it, how to grab it, to do videos. I want you to be assured that it is certified. Now here's the thing I have done. I have collected all these oddball varieties because I have been doing this since I was about 25. That's when I really started collecting some of the really hard to get, like chimeras, variegated Buddha's hand, some of the really difficult stuff to collect. And instead of me spreading the viruses and spreading the buds on that, I just keep the trees growing. Then I introduce it into California. If I want to do it to keep it personal, to keep it in my name, it's $10,000 a tree. Some of those you can make money at, but it's more important to me to shut the underground market down, make it easy for everyone to get it, so I make it public. California is really working with me well. They have got, I think, 18 varieties now that I have submitted. Some of the ones, Chimera, the variegated Buddha's hand. The Chimera should come out this next year. Buddha's hand will take a few more years. It's a really slow grower. So that's my goal, is to make sure that the varieties that us collectors really want are certified, clean budwood, and easy to get. I mean, if somebody had been doing this 25 years ago, I would have just been beside myself, knowing I could get the varieties that easily. We're adding on at the nursery now. We started out with a 30 by 200 greenhouse. When I decided to do this, I called Stan up and said, Stan, you know, I got a problem here. I'm thinking about going in the nursery business. What do you think? And he said, Hersh, I'd be careful if I was you. I said, what you mean? He said, you can't grow enough. I said, Stan, but we're putting up a 200-foot greenhouse. He said, I'm telling you, you can't grow enough. The following year, we doubled in size. The following year, we doubled in size. The following year, we doubled in size. This year, we're doubling in size. We're putting up a 150-foot house that is 5 bays wide, 360 feet. And we've already got the other one purchased on the ground to put up behind that one. So far, I haven't been able to grow enough. It has been a dream come true for somebody like me, just with a passion to be able to see it come from just the desire to grow citrus, to be able to actually prosper We did have to borrow money for a few years to make payroll during the winter months. And last year I saw my banker and told him, I said, hey, I'm gonna come see you. He said, don't bother. I'm not loaning you any more money. I said, Alex, why not? He said, because you pay it back too fast. I can't make nothing on you. This year we have stepped out and bought a bulldozer, an excavator, backhoe, a few other pieces of equipment. We do our own dirt work now, our own site prep. I did installation for Atlas Greenhouse Systems for 27 years, so I know a little bit about putting up greenhouses. And since I'm still young and able, I do all our own site prep, do our own construction. We've got a really good crew. Good friend of mine, Philip Brooks, comes up from Florida sometimes, and I've been down there, and it looks like ants in his greenhouse. There's so many employees. And he said, you know, you must have a huge crew here. I said, yeah, I got 5 people. 5 people run our operation, but they're very efficient. It's just when you surround yourself with good people and are determined. They actually had to take yesterday and today off because they called up and ran out of work. So it has been a blessing. And that's it for me. Does anybody have any questions?
You said you had a good relationship with the California Riverside, UC Riverside. Is that the? And they don't see you as competition to them, because I know they sell a lot and it is pretty expensive. You have to pay for the phytosanitary certificate and everything.
Okay. Okay. When I order my own budwood, me being a nursery, I get to buy budwood dirt cheap. I have to pay the phytosanitary, which is no problem. Rock Cristiano, I order a lot of buds. And I always tell him, you know, I need 45, 50, 60 buds. He said, Hershell, they're $5 each. I said, Rock, I'm old. I don't have time. Instant gratification, buddy. Send the buds. But there's something I knew. I was a nursery. I read a little bit, and I was reading in the manual for licensed nurseries, it's 75 cents per bud. They were charging me $5 a bud. He called me last year and said, Hershell, guess what? I said, what, Rock? He said, I've been charging you $5 a bud. I said, I know. He said, you got $3,800 credit. Do you want a refund or do you want buds? I said, what do you think? He said, you knew this all along, didn't you? I said, yeah. You owe me a lot of buds. He said, but you have to give them this year.
Yeah.
I can't keep it over. I said, you kept it for 2 years. He said, yeah, but I know it now. So I finally had to get a refund. But they're only limited, supposed to give me 15 buds, but he said, after you get to know somebody like that and build a relationship with them, he says, the state sets the price on the buds, I count the buds. So he's good to me. Let's just say he's really good to me. After I went out there and met with him, Stan met him, he's just a great guy. He has a passion for citrus, so he knows what we're up against. And as far as them seeing me as competition, they want people like us to sell the buds. They don't want to be bothered with the 3 buds, the 5 buds, the 10 buds, the 15 buds. They want to be in business to supply us nurseries that mass produce it and make it easier for people like y'all to get it. I don't have to send out a phytosanitary. I don't have to do any of that. You know, we sell 3 varieties for $30. I'll make sure you get plenty of buds. Any other questions? And I kind of rambled on that. You know, I'm bashful.
This is very specific, I guess, and test you remember, but I have a tree that Daddy used to call, or out of Florida, that Daddy used to call Pontius seedless. Have you ever heard that term?
Never have.
Well, I can't find it on the internet either. That's why I kind of asked the question. But the closest I've come is the seedless pineapple.
Tell me that name again.
Pontius seedless.
Kanye seedless. I want to see you after this is over with. I'm going to write that down. A lady did call me. I want to go through this just a second. A lady called me, and I could tell she had an accent from another country. She called me about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. It's probably been 2 years, 2.5 years ago now. And she said, you know, I'm looking for a citrus and see if you can get it imported for me. And I said, you know, I got pretty long arms, but I can't reach that far. She said, this is from my homeland, and I really want to get it. I said, you know, I'll do what I can. Give me the names you know it by. She gave me 3 names. I called down in Florida to the bureau chief down there, and I explained to him what I was trying to do, and he said, give me the names you know it by. So I gave him 3 names. He said, oh, that's Nazarene. I said, send me 50 buds. He said, okay, put them in the mail tomorrow. So I called her back and said, I ordered 50 buds. I have your trees in about 6 months. She called me every day. Every day. We became really close friends. She would ask questions like, what color do you like? What size shirts do you wear? There was packages coming all the time. Best of friends. Come to find out, she's a really poor lady. She owns houses in 7 countries. She's from the jungles of Borneo. She speaks 13 languages. Her husband is an engineer. A really good friend of hers is a brain surgeon. They're pretty smart folks. But she said, you're the only person that has ever listened to my story and tried to help me find Nazarene. She said, we use it in salsa. So now I box her up boxes of Nazarene fruit and ship to Chicago.
What's it called again?
Nazarene, it is a nasty little thing that you don't want. You think calamari is sour? You can't get the taste out of your mouth. And they just use it to flavor other things, and that flavor's one I don't understand why I wouldn't want. So was there a question over here somewhere? Okay, Tom.
You know, Hershell, like the states that you can and you cannot ship trees to and from and stuff like that. Just to take a couple minutes, why do we have those rules?
Okay, those rules are old rules from citrus states that didn't want to share budwood or trees back and forth. California didn't want anything from Florida because Florida had canker. Florida had diseases California didn't have. So we have Florida, California, Arizona, Louisiana, and Texas are citrus producing states. Georgia now has more trees, more citrus groves than Louisiana ever had. We're up to about 3,000 acres of groves that are known. A lot of people plant small groves that we don't really know about. I try to keep a record of it and try to keep up about how many acres I sell, and the other nurseries try to keep about how many records. We don't care who has them or where they're at. The Department of Agriculture just wants to know about how many they've got. That helps get more funds in the state to help go to agriculture, or go to the citrus. But the reason they don't want to share it from state to state is Georgia has very little diseases. And they certainly wouldn't want a tree going from Georgia where there's no disease into the state that has every disease known to man. I just make a joke out of that, I'm sorry. But now it's okay to bring it from Florida where every disease is known to man into Georgia where we don't want it. And that has already happened. We've already have HLB, we already have canker. Several groves have already been taken out and replanted because of canker. But those trees every time have been brought in illegally. Or not illegally, but out of a garden center like Home Depot or Lowe's, or from somebody that wasn't a certified nursery and brought in and planted in a grove. So that's what I try to tell all my growers. Find one nursery, I don't care which one you find one certified nursery and stick with that one nursery. Good friend of mine's got 30-something acres in Georgia, found out last year he had canker. And I told him several times, find one nursery. But he was ordering from this one, from this one, from this one, from this one, and one of them was dirty and don't know where the canker came from, but now he will never be able to get rid of the canker in his groves. Florida don't even try to get rid of it anymore. It's just something you have to learn to deal with. Spray fungicides every week and rotate your fungicides out from bloom to harvest. You get a few weeks you get to take off, but you've got to stay on top of canker. Anybody else?
So another fruit there seems to be this growing interest in discovering the history of that fruit, kind of historical antiquates and fruits. Has there been an interest in finding out like the Spanish varieties that have been brought in, the history of some of the fruits that have been developed?
Unfortunately, history is something that we just can't find out. State of Florida, they don't keep good records on the dooryard varieties. They keep pretty good records on stuff that makes some money. A lot of it, I can't find any taste profile, anything. So everybody wants to know, well, you have this on your website, what's it taste like? I never saw fruit yet. It takes me about 3 years to get enough trees grown up to actually get enough fruit to figure it out. But yeah, I try so many things. Tom McClendon, where's Tom? I want to take Tom and sit him down on a table and hand him fruit and get Tom's opinion, because his vocabulary is tremendous on describing fruit. I got one over here. There's Tom right back there. I got to hijack Tom. I just tell you a little story about Tom. There was a celebrity one time. I read
all the unusual things that you have developed and brought in. I was wondering if there were a couple that come to mind that you were surprised became popular.
Okay. Let's back up on the development part. I'm not a breeder. I have never developed anything. I have found a lot of limb sports that were different. I found variegated Shiranui, they said didn't exist. The state of Florida and the state of California said it didn't exist. I do have variegated Shiranui. I'm dealing with the state of Florida right now on variegated Bingo. They said it didn't exist. One tree that I had mutated, and it's a beautiful variegation. I haven't saw fruit yet. I've got 12 trees to grow up to see if the fruit is as beautiful as the tree. Now, I'll have to get permission from the state of Florida to sell that one dooryard, because there is a pretty it's patented, and you have to be a licensed grove owner to get that one, and that means you have to buy 50 or more plants. So that wouldn't be dooryard, but I'm hoping we can get them to sell the variegated version as dooryard. So I haven't actually developed anything. I do talk to a lot of the breeders in Florida. They spend their entire life, and if they release 4 varieties in their lifetime, they've done really good. But let me get back to Tom. This is a celebrity. I read one of the books he wrote one time, and I thought, oh man, I memorized it. I'm talking about memorized it. And then one time a friend of mine was going to his house to look at some fruit. Asked me, hey, you want to meet me there? I said, where's it going to be? He said, it's Tom McClendon's place. I got to go to Tom McClendon's place. I could quote the book to him. I just idolize Tom McClendon. And Tom does help us on our website. So when you see something on our website that really explains the taste profile, Tom wrote it.
So it's desire to republish it.
I have wanted that book republished. He's promising us one day. But there's a lot he's got to add to it. Anybody else? Y'all made it easy on me. I got one more.
Do you think the realistic range of more commercial grows is in South Carolina, or do you think that kind of ends anybody?
It depends on how much care you want to put into it, how deep a well you want to put in, how much volume of water. There's a guy that's been doing this for about 45 years, has been growing it, testing it, figuring out how to take care of it, and they still don't want to listen to me. My cousin figured out this year that when I told him to wet his trees down, and he said, well, I don't want to break the limbs on my trees, I want to wet the ground under them. I said, Ricky, I've never had a grower come to me and say, Hershell, oh my God, I didn't protect my dirt and I've lost it. But I've had them come to me and say, I didn't protect my tree and I've lost them. He said, well, I don't want any broke limbs in my trees. I said, well, do you want 10% of your limbs to be broke, or do you want 95% of your trees to be dead? He opted for the 95% to be dead. A 14-acre tract, he had 32 trees that made it through the winter last year. I'm in the business of selling trees. I appreciate his business. But I think he will probably listen to me this winter and he'll wet the tree down, not wet the dirt under it. It was an expensive lesson for him. So it's how much care you want to put in it. We do have on our website, if you want to protect 1 or 2 or 3 trees, we have a little bit of information on that. I'm going to get more on there.
Okay, it says to saturate the ground about 2 days before the day freezes up, and then the day of the freeze, start spraying the tree.
You haven't heard me say that.
No, and that's why I went a little bit. When you just said what I have read, know that this happens a lot with me.
I've been doing it since I was 14.
So don't wet the ground at all.
You're going to flood the ground anyway when you know the freeze is coming.
Right.
When the temperature starts dropping, don't wait till it's 32 degrees to go out there and turn on your microjets, because the spaghetti tubes in the lower levels is already going to be iced up. Turn it on when it's 45 degrees. Give yourself plenty of time. That's going to saturate your ground and put a little bit of heat in there. But there's not enough heat in groundwater to warm anything up. If you have a microjet and it has a diffuser on top and the diffuser comes off and will flip over to spray a different pattern, take that diffuser off and put it in your pocket and it will spray straight up about 8 feet. The wind and the leaves and the limbs will diffuse that water out in the tree and it will ice up the outside of the tree. It'll leave the inside by the trunk hollow. Yeah, you're going to have some broke limbs, but do you want a few broke limbs or do you want a busted trunk and a tree that's going to die?
Plus, you do not want that extra moisture in the bark of the tree. If you put it in the ground, the roots won't take it up.
Yeah, but I prefer the tree to be wet.
And she's talking about wetting the ground.
Yeah, wetting the ground, it don't release enough heat to go up because it freezes over. Ice doesn't release heat. But that water coming out, if you have 15 gallons per hour, you can't freeze 15 gallons per hour going up in the tree. Now it'll ice over the outside of the limbs, but the trunk of the tree, it'll never ice over in there. So it keeps it above freezing. Stan, I know you want to ask me something.
No, but I did want to make a comment on trees spraying water. I had Citrus Grove for 10 years, had 10 wonderful years of production, and I went to a citrus meeting in Savannah, Georgia. Marge, I think you were the host.
Yes.
And a lady was giving a presentation on frost bags, which they're good, that they would give you as much as 10 degrees freeze protection. Well, for 10 years I had sprayed water on my trees, and the downside was by springtime there was all kind of broken limbs laying around, looked like they'd been hit with an atom bomb, but they would always recover and come out and make a crop. But based on the lady that said it would give you 10 degrees freeze protection, I ordered a whole roll of frost bags, cut them and sold them and bagged my trees and did not run the water. Well, we had a low pressure system come up the coast that put a snow on the ground from I-95 east to the west of 95. They were bare ground. Our heat radiated back out into space and we bottomed out at 8 degrees, and the trees that were bagged were killed dead as a hammer. If I'd run the water, I would have saved my citrus grove, but I did not do that. So I highly recommend, and the grove that we had on the tour yesterday, that's all they do is spray water up into the tree. Ben, you're still here somewhere, right? Ben Sandy, okay. That's all y'all do, right? You don't bag it. Huh? The power doesn't go out. If the power doesn't go out. And I will say, like Hershell just said, if you wait till it gets 32 degrees to turn your little misters on and you got a spaghetti tube feeding it, you bought the farm. So it's best to turn it on before it gets down that low. But yeah, I've had a lot of experience with an 8-degree freeze will take out pretty well anything you growing, other than my 10-degree tangerine back there and a few others. But I told them we need to change the name to 8-degree tangerine because that would survive the 8 degrees. But anyhow, back to your point.
Anybody else?
A little more concerning,
That everywhere. I have never had a problem with mulch against the tree. I like pine straw. I like pine cones. I like sticks. anything you can fill in there under that tree. Here's another thing. Everybody wants to grow a citrus tree. I despise citrus trees. I want citrus bushes because these cold years that we have a hard freeze, the canopy of the tree won't make any fruit, but those limbs around the dirt, oh, they just load up right on top of the dirt. But all my farmers, they want to trim those. They don't want anything touching the dirt. Well, the next limbs are just going to fall on the dirt. Well, we use a lot of mechanical spray equipment. And I understand, make your spray equipment so it'll slide under those limbs. It's going to knock some fruit off, but if you cut the limbs, it's not going to be there anyway. In my yard, I like it so the smallest children can pick fruit. Well, they don't have to have help. The fruit is down there. Have another question?
Yeah, I may have missed this, but you were talking about the certifications. And could you just run that? Who certifies your fruit, and do they do that in South Carolina? Do they certify fruit?
No, South Carolina does not have a certification program. The state of Georgia does have rules and regulations that we have to go by. We can only use certified buds. Our nursery is tested twice a month. Have a USDA inspector team come by and a state inspection team come by. You talk about double taxation, you know, I have to pay both of them. And they do the exact same thing. You know, why can't they take one to be as good as the other? But that's for me to be able to ship out of state to all the other states. Now, see, Stan can ship almost everywhere I can ship. Well, he can ship everywhere I can ship except into Georgia because Georgia has shut down the perimeter for anybody that's not certified to ship into it. But for me to ship fruit out, I have to have a USDA stamp that I have to stamp the box that it has been USDA inspected, which means nothing but I paid a tax. Now, we can ship either way. We can ship field packed, which means it's not washed, it's not sprayed, it's not waxed. But now once we take it into a building, it's a total different classification then. You have to have the building inspected, you have to have your packing line inspected, you have to have your spray tested. We field pack through the building if they catch us. But if you want to go that extra mile to be a little better, you're taking the chance. And my inspector knows me real well. He knows I like to do it as good as I can do it. I mean, they always make fun of me when they come if one of the inspectors hadn't been there in a while, the first thing they do when they open the door, they look around and say, "Where are the weeds?" I don't get paid to grow weeds. Well, every other nursery we go to has got weeds. I don't like weeds. I'm anal about problems. You know, I was talking to one of the inspectors a few weeks ago, and he said, you know, I just don't understand the difference here and in all the other places I inspect. I said, you know, what's the difference? He said, if every place we went to was like this, we wouldn't have a job because there's nothing here to inspect. But Tim Riley asked me when I started the nursery, he said, Hershell, you're going to be the largest in Georgia, and we don't have any USDA inspectors that know what they're doing. Will you help train them? I said, sure, Tim, I'll do that. He said, I'm serious. They need to be trained. So what I do is when my guys come, I give them an hour and a half to go through. They come back and I meet them at the front. I said, what did y'all find? They're kind of quiet because they know the next question. Now I'm going to show you what you missed. Because if you don't show them what they missed, regardless of what it is, it can be a spot that has got cyclamen mites. It can be a spot that has spider mites. It can be a spot that has broad mites. Each of the mites have a different characteristic of damage. They're not looking for mite damage. They're looking for disease. But if they don't know what the mite damage looks like, they could think it's a disease. Now, one time we had a leaf spot problem. The fungicides that I was using wasn't taking care of that one, even though it was listed on there. So we had to change over to a different copper that was systemic. And everybody says, oh, copper's not systemic. Well, we changed to a better copper and it got rid of the leaf spot. And it's only on a few varieties, you know, several varieties that won't bother. Other varieties would have the leaf spot. So I make sure my inspectors see everything I see and be able to distinguish the difference, because it's better for them to know what to look for, so when they go to other nurseries and do see something, they can question it and try to help to clear it up. A lot of the other growers call me if they have a problem, send me pictures all the time. But that's just my nature. I want to help. Having the largest varieties, gives me a chance to see the most of it. But as far as knowing it all, I don't. But I surround myself with people that do. Now, I do want to touch on this. I've been told before that I'm a little bit of a smart aleck. Everything to me is funny. I get kicked off of a lot of forums because when somebody makes a statement that isn't true, I would rather clear it up. I got kicked off of another forum and told that I thought I knew everything, so I just said, okay. Called Lou and said, Lou, start us a Facebook page. And I want to be sure that all the information on there is correct. So if y'all go to it and ask a question, the answer you get, I want to be sure that all the people that have grown citrus for a long time, such as Tom McClendon, can help answer that. But you could never get several nurseries to agree and be moderators on a page. That just wouldn't work. So I only got 9 nurseries for professionals to agree to be moderators. I got Tom. I got one of the largest ones that owns a nursery in Texas and Louisiana, Ricky Becknell. I got a couple out of Florida. Anna with Brightly. Billy Murphy. This old guy right here, he's a moderator. But to join, you have to agree that if you don't know the answer, you won't give an answer. And if you give an answer and one of the professionals don't agree with it, you won't get your feelings hurt if we correct it. Because I just want good information out there. Because there's so much bad information on the web. So if you go to U.S. Citrus Lovers and it has a picture of a heart-shaped pumelo, that's us. Anybody else?
All right, let's give Hershell a big hand. You'll notice I've changed my outfit a little bit. This next segment, I think, is going to be a fun segment. We've titled it Confessions of Certified Citraholics.